serve as a review of naming ionic compounds and an introduction to writing the formula for ionic compounds. This Google Slides presentation contains a bunch of cards of cations and anions. We're going to use those cards to create the formulas for ionic compounds. Keep in mind that each formula and set of cards represents a formula unit of the ionic compound. The ionic compound itself would be a crystal lattice of alternating cations and anions. We learned that to write the name of an ionic compound, you take the name of the metal and the name of the nonmetal and change the ending to IDE. To write the formulas, we have to balance out the positive and negative charges because the ionic substance overall is neutral. For example, why is the formula for sodium chloride NaCl but calcium chloride CaCl2? Well, sodium chloride involves a sodium ion with a +1 charge and a chloride ion with a -1 charge. To balance each other out, you only need one sodium cation and one chloride anion, NaCl. But the calcium ion has a +2 charge. So to balance out the +2 charge on calcium, we need two negatively charged chloride ions. The whole purpose of this activity is to make that thought process easier to visualize. So let me explain and demonstrate the procedure you're going to follow to complete this activity. One of the things you'll be doing is reviewing how to name an ionic compound involving a metal cation and a nonmetal anion. The cation always gets named first, and you just use the name of the element. The nonmetal gets named second, and you change the ending of the nonmetal to IDE. So if I had potassium as my metal and fluorine as my nonmetal, if these made an ionic compound, the name of the compound would be potassium fluoride. We are also going to practice developing the formulas for ionic compounds. This is where the cards are going to help us. The size of the card depends on the size of the charge on each ion. So if you look at my example for calcium chloride here, calcium has a +2 charge. The chlorines only have a -1 charge. So the card for calcium is twice as tall as the cards for the chloride ion. Because ionic compounds are neutral overall, I have to have the same amount of positive charge as I do negative charge. So these two positive charges here on the calcium ion have to be balanced out by two chloride ions, each with one negative charge. I have to have a positive and negative charge across from each other when I line up my cards. By looking at this model, I can then see to make a formula unit of calcium chloride, I need one calcium cation and two chloride anions. So the formula would be CaCl2. All right, let's talk about how to complete this activity. The next two Google Slides contain a cation card bank. When you are done with this activity, all of these cation cards should be removed from these two slides. The next two Google Slides are an anion card bank. Once again, all of these anion cards should be removed from these two slides when you're done with this activity. To complete this activity, I'm going to use the cards on the cation and anion card bank to do slides 7 through 18. I'm going to work through the first two examples with you so you can see how this is done. If I go to slide 7, I'm supposed to make an ionic compound using K+ and Cl-. So I'm going to go to my cation card bank and find a K+ card. So here's a K+ card. I want to select the line of this text box. Otherwise, if you select inside of it, you're going to start editing the text. I don't want you to do that. I'm going to hit Command X to cut that card out of there. I'm going to go back to slide number 7. I'm going to do Command V and paste that card in there. I'm going to move it over to my work area. Now I'm going to go get a Cl- card. So that's an anion. I'm going to go to my anion card bank. I'm going to click on the line of the text box to select the text box. I'm going to do Command X to cut it out. I'm going to go back to slide 7. I'm going to do Command V to paste that card in. I'm going to move it. And now I'm going to make an ionic compound. This one should be pretty easy. I have to have the same amount of positive charge as negative charge. In this case, I only need one of each card. The charge of one K+ card is balanced by the charge on one Cl- card. Now I can develop the name and the formula for this substance. The name is simple. The metal cation is potassium. Cl is chlorine, but the nonmetal anion, you change the ending to IDE, so that would be chloride. The name of this substance is potassium chloride. Now, to figure out the formula, you just have to count how many ions you have. I needed one potassium card and one chloride card. So to make a formula of potassium chloride, I need 1K and 1Cl. When you write a formula, you use subscripts to indicate how many of that atom you need. When the subscript is a 1, you don't write it. Since I only need 1K and 1Cl, the formula is KCl. So slide 7 is complete. I have a model of my ionic compound, I have the ionic compound named, and I have its formula. Let's take a look at the next example on slide 8. On slide 8, I need to make an ionic compound involving calcium ions and chloride ions. I'm going to go to my cation card bank and find me a calcium ion. Oh, not one there. So here we go. I'm going to click on that. Command X to cut that out. Go back to slide 8. Command V to paste it in. Move it over to my work area. I need a chloride ion. I'm going to go to my anion card bank. There's one right there. Command X to cut it out. Go back to slide 8. Command V to paste it in. So here you're going to see we run into an issue. The model of your ionic compound needs to form a rectangle when you're all said and done. Well, if I move this one chloride ion into place, that is not a rectangle. So you can see I'm going to need 2 of these chloride ions. So I'm going to go back to my anion card bank. I'm going to cut out another chloride ion. So Command X, go back to slide 8, Command V, paste it in. And now if I do that and I move that card into place, my model makes a rectangle just like it should. The 2 positive charges on my calcium ion card are balanced by the negative charges on my 2 chloride ion cards. My model is complete. Now I need to name this and come up with the formula for this ionic compound. The metal cation is calcium. The nonmetal anion is chlorine. So we change that ending to an IDE. This is calcium chloride. The formula. I needed 1 calcium ion and I needed 2 chlorine ions. So my formula needs to be CaCl2. When I have one of a substance, I don't worry about a subscript. But since I have 2 chlorines, that means after the Cl, I'm going to need a subscript 2. So when I write my formula, I want CaCl, and then I need a subscript 2. To get a subscript, you do command, comma. If you do command, comma, that'll go to a subscript and you can put the 2 in there. I expect you to write subscripts, not just to leave it a regular size 2 after the formula. Slide 8 is now complete. That means you need to work through slides 9 through 18. A couple things to remember. A correct model using the cards will make a rectangle. If your model does not make a rectangle, you haven't done it correctly. All you have to do is get the number of positive charges to equal the amount of negative charges. When you are done with slides 9 through 18, there should be no cards left in the cation and anion banks. You should have used them all. The purpose of this activity is to visualize how we come about developing these formulas for ionic compounds. By visualizing the process of developing the formula for an ionic compound, it should help you understand the game plan we're going to follow to develop the formulas of ionic compounds, which we will discuss in our next video. So until next time.